Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramon, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramon.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I'm so thrilled to have you join us today. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose. We believe when we approach our work and our lives with that servant's heart, we can truly make a difference. And my next guest taught me something about servant mindset. That's important, but it's also got to come from the heart. So just don't go, hey, I'm going to serve people expecting something. Come from the heart, from the soul, and you'll truly make a difference in people's lives. And we created this show to motivate, inspire, and educate you to make an impact in your world. I know you're going to do that with my guest today, so I want you to take a pad and paper out, take some notes or your electronic devices, because he's going to give you tips. He's a sales expert. We'll dive into that a little bit, but he gets what a servant's heart's all about, which is why he's on the show. I want you to think today while you're listening to this podcast, how you're going to serve yourself today, which you have to do first, how you're going to serve someone else today, and what impact you'll create today. The key word there is today. I get messages all the time. I waited a week and I forgot. I didn't do it. Well, listen to my incredible guest and then go and serve and let me know what happens. You can send me an email. You have all my contact information. And today's episode is proudly sponsored by our incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of very high income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries, building a community of thought leaders and experts to impact and change the world. If you want more information on this incredible community, please reach out to me and I'll get you all the information. So with that being said, I talk about impact a lot because I think we all should be doing that. Maybe 50 years ago it wasn't important, but today the world is a mess. I know you all agree with me in one way or another. So let's make an impact, and my guest does that today. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Steve. I'm really excited to be here.
You know what I'm excited to leave out your bio is you're a top 25 marketing technology trailblazer in 2017. Why do you think you won that award?
So, you know, it's an interesting thing. Like, to be honest, like, I think it's ironic, came a lot from, you know, the way that I approached working with the community and building other folks. You know, in 2017, marketing technology was still kind of more nascent than it is now. Like now, there's revenue ops or rev ops, and there, you know, there's sales ops, and there's all of this marketing technology and all of this ad tech. In fact, so I tell this story a lot. And when the MarTech conference, Scott Brinker and some other great folks there put that on. And when they started, they published like a landscape of all of the companies that are, you know, providing either data or technology to help marketers or advertisers or salespeople sort of execute. And it had about 150 logos on there. And that was around 2011, I think. This year, it has over 10,000 different logos on there because it's exploded so fast. But in the early days, it was, you know, more of a community of getting together sort of data-driven marketers, people who understood that I can actually do a better job for my customers by using data to better understand them. But then you've got all this data, you need to make sense of it. So I need some technology to sort of create some infrastructure and some orchestration and execution against that. But it all stems from sort of the mindset of I need to do a better job of, you know, connecting with my customers, connecting with their needs. And that's really where that, you know, sort of marketing technology thing kind of came from.
I love the word connecting because that's what serving's all about. You can't serve unless you connect with people. Kind of
right.
Logical. So you work with founders, CEOs, high level to really help businesses grow. You have a revenue growth system. What's that? How's that impact them and their business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been in the B2B marketing and sales space for more than 20 years. And about 5 years ago, during the pandemic lockdowns, I noticed some really rapid change. And McKinsey Consulting says that the lockdowns accelerated B2B marketing and sales trends by more than 10 years in less than 10 months. So a decade of change in less than a year. And I looked at all of the companies that were being successful, and I noticed the ones that were being successful were doing things differently. And I talked earlier about, all of these different 10,000 different ad tech, martech solutions. And there's a whole generation of marketers and salespeople that have sort of had success by gaming the algorithm. They were the first people to do paid search ads, or they were the first people to optimize their website for SEO. It was kind of like finding this growth hack, sort of opened up, a floodgate of opportunity. But today, and even 5 years ago, that was no longer true because it's a much more mature marketplace. And so the secret to success wasn't finding a growth hack. It was building a system and then layering into that system the data or technology to make sense of that data to help you do a better job. And really within that revenue growth systems, there's three key areas. The first is on attracting more of the right prospects. Instead of just more leads, you need the right leads. And that's actually the title of the book is, Are Your Leads Killing Your Business? Because I've seen so many companies just obsess, more leads, more leads, more leads. But that leads to them being distracted by the not the good leads that wind up sort of killing their business. Because they either want too many discounts, so they never generate any profit because they never really understood your value proposition, or they want too much customization because they never really understood your product vision, and so then that distracts you from building what the market wants, or they churn and burn, so burn out your staff and churn out before ever generating testimonials, referrals. So those are really those killer clients that you want to stay away from. And so the way that you stay away from them is building the systems to attract the right prospects, building systems to identify them when they enter your thing so you can accelerate them through the sales pipeline, because you got to put all of your resources on those best opportunities if you're going to win them. Otherwise, your competitors will, and you're left with your competitors' scraps, those killer clients. And then finally, it's about activating your clients for fast renewals, larger upsells, more referrals. So many companies don't have the systems in place that after they close that first contract, how do we grow? How do we add more value so that they want to, sort of deepen their relationship with us and go out to the marketplace and evangelize what a great experience they've had working with us? You really need those systems in place in all three areas: this attraction, acceleration, and activation.
What's one good tip? There's probably millions of tips in the book. What's
Sure.
one tip comes to the top of your head that somebody listening, you want to express that when they read the book, this is a tip they're going to learn?
Yeah, so it's a lot about really documenting things that might already live between your ears. And so for a lot of founders, operators, they worked in an industry for a while and they had an idea for a better mousetrap. And then they founded a company to build that mousetrap. And they know enough about what's wrong with the competition because they worked for it. And they know enough about what's right with their product because they, had the idea and developed it. And they know enough sort of potential customers because they worked in the industry and they got a Rolodex. And so that gets them to, sort of a certain stage of growth. To get to the next stage of growth, they need to really sort of document what got them here so that they can then iterate on that. And also so they can get some external expertise, like me or like any one of a number of folks, so they can hire a CMO, so that they can hire additional staff to help them scale. So often founders will kind of get to a certain level of growth and then not know how to go any further. And the big blocker is just documenting what they're already doing so that they can start to take a piece of that to someone else, or take a piece of that and optimize and iterate on it, or take a piece of that and improve the KPIs and the metrics of success. Without documenting that, and without sort of capturing the data that you need to create those metrics of success, you really limit yourself in your ability to grow.
There's a phrase that comes in my head. I can't think of the phrase. Something about what you don't see, you can't do. It's about numbers, and maybe you remember that, but that's what I'm thinking. Do you know
What
what that?
Yeah, I think you're probably thinking of what gets measured gets improved.
There you
And
go.
that's very often true. But we also talk about, what is detailed gets improved. And so, for example, if, and if your idea is we need to move them from, an anonymous target that we have no relationship with to a named, account in our CRM. That's a reasonable target up there with those attraction systems. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, you could have a podcast and invite them. Okay, well, how successful is that? Well, you need some metrics to capture that. And so the metrics are, well, you reached out to 100 people and 20 of them responded. And of those 20, 10 were guests. And of those 10 guests, 5 had a commercial conversation with us. And of those 5 that had a commercial conversation, one of them turned into a client. And that client was worth $100,000. So all the hours that you put in to get to that one client, let's divide that by $100,000. That's your return on investment. But if you don't know those steps to that process, if you don't know what that outcome is, if you don't know what the metrics are at each of those stages, you can't improve it. You're just sort of, well, I'm out there trying to get podcast guests. I don't know what's going to happen. And so it's by defining, your process. The other thing you could do is, how are you starting to, identify those folks? Is it through LinkedIn, or maybe you're, getting a list that you're emailing folks with an invitation to come on your podcast, or maybe it's joining a networking program and talking to folks there. Each of those different areas could be more or less successful, require more or less time investment, require more or less monetary investment. But until you're tracking it, you can never improve it.
Yeah. You talked before the show about your B2C journey as a college student.
Yeah.
Why did you jump into B2B and not stay with B2C? What inspired you to work B2B?
So I would say it was, like a lot of folks, I kind of wound up there. But I think I shared with you, after school, I was playing music for a living and managing bands and touring around. And so I needed a job, though, to kind of keep the lights on while I was chasing that dream. And so I sold door to door. And I found that being, persuasive and compelling to an individual wasn't always in their best interest. And so it sort of put me up against, my best interest versus their best interest, and they weren't always aligned. Whereas after I, sort of got the chance to enjoy my chasing my dream of playing music and met my wife, where I would rather be at home on a Tuesday night than in a bar at 2 a.m. I got into working for businesses and doing, product marketing and sales and sales leadership and, led sales teams. But in that process, I learned that real success in B2B comes from aligning your interests with them. And really, as you say, sort of having that servant's heart and mindset of, I want to help them through what is a difficult process. Change is hard for people, and sales is fundamentally facilitating change for an organization. And so by, aligning and really understanding, well, what do they need most from the type of solution that I'm providing? How do I help them see that my solution is, potentially the right one for them? And then not forcing well, you really need something that does a little more X and a little less Y. Mine's a little more Y and a little less X, but being able to be transparent and honest about that pays you back in a B2B, sales career, because they'll remember you and they'll come back to you. And when their problem is more aligned with Y, or when they find out from someone else in their organization, well, actually, we really would prefer it to be Y. We've just been asking for it to be X. And so by helping them sort of find the best solution for them, you're helping them and you're helping yourself, because it all comes back. And that's a lot of why I moved my sales career specifically into the B2B space.
And I love that you said solution, because I think a lot of people, I won't say a lot of people, but it's not focused. It's like how much, we'll do this and this, and they don't get to the solution because they don't find the pain point, which you do. I love that you've taken clients and doubled their revenue in 90 days. That is a powerful statement that you've done. Can you share a story or two of people you've done that with?
Sure. So I was working again with an ad tech company who had a software that really essentially optimized Facebook ads. So you could spend less and get more for Facebook ads. And they were working with, they were in the early stages. They were actually the first company to put any ads on Instagram, if you can imagine a time before Instagram had ads.
Wow.
But they were part of that sort of early group of kind of 5 to 6 companies that were pretty big and doing this at scale. So working with really large advertisers. But all of their competition had taken, venture capital or private equity, and so had a lot of investment. And those folks were just, they were buying big accounts by essentially giving it the program for free so that they could say, look, this big logo is one of our customers. Don't you want to work here? Or don't you want to, work with us as well? Or they were, everywhere at every conference. They were in every trade publication, on every website. And so it was really hard for this company to break through and to sort of carve out their space. And so when I came in, they were really struggling. But what we did is we looked at, well, who are our tier 1 customers? And I took the time to really think through the customers that have been with us the longest, where we have the best revenues and the best relationship. And how is that different than what our competition is doing? And what we identified was our best customers were ad agencies. And we were really good. So a little bit about our platform made us a little better at one person managing multiple accounts, and also just buying in the way that ad agencies buy, versus the other folks had focused on going straight to the brand itself and cutting the ad agency out. And in fact, had built some sort of reputation of maybe they don't mind making the ad agency look bad as a way of trying to get the brand to work with them. Whereas we had never done that. And so we recognized this opportunity of, wow, they're all kind of, telling the brands that ad agencies are bad. Agencies don't like that. Our solution is actually a little better than theirs anyway at serving ad agencies. So we identified actually 100 of the best ad agencies in the country that we thought we could really add a lot of value to. And we made custom cakes that had that ad agency's logo on it. And the messaging was, we put you in the spotlight. And we want to be the guy behind the guy. We're going to make you look good to your clients. They'll never even know you're working with us. Versus everyone else, they want you to talk about how you work with them so that they can come in and steal your client from you. We're the opposite of that. And so that campaign, we timed it with a press release and a new feature release, and then sending these cakes, because people at ad agencies spend a lot of time at their desks. They don't get a chance to go out for food a lot. So food deliveries are also always really well received. So we identified those 100 best agencies. We sent those cakes. We followed up immediately with phone calls and emails, scheduled the appointments, and that campaign in and of itself wound up doubling our revenues in about 90 days.
That's fantastic. One of your superpowers of many is research. You've mentioned it a number of times. That's a big part of what you do.
For sure. Well, and what we find is that it's not just research that is data, but it's having the empathy to synthesize that data and really get in the mindset of who your ideal customer is from a sort of account basis. But also, we're primarily working in B2B that's, chasing large contracts and, has lots of decision makers within the buying committee. So there's an actual decision maker that, signs the check. There's a champion that's got to feel comfortable enough with your solution to stick their neck out for you. There's probably a technical influencer that's evaluating whether or not your technology will mesh well with theirs or with their data sets. And there might be an end user that is worried that you're going to make their life worse or not as good as, with someone else. So, but if you don't really have an understanding of what both the professional as well as personal wins are for each of those different folks, you'll never, be able to, get the deal over the line, because there'll always be someone who just doesn't, well, I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable. Let's just stick with not doing anything, because, for the vast majority of companies in the B2B space, your biggest obstacle is them doing nothing. About 40% of the time, that's what winds up happening. They don't do anything. The other 30% of the time, well, let's try to fix it with the resources we got. So there's really only 30% of the time you're losing to a competitor. And if you don't really understand and empathize with each of the members of that buying committee, you can't overcome that inertia to get them to make a decision at all, much less make the decision to go with you.
Yeah, that's so well said. I love that because inaction is worse. Indecision is worse than a wrong decision, and
That's
that's what
right.
you're saying. It's amazing to me, but we won't get in that rabbit hole because we're getting to the end here. Your servant's heart. You've got a free diagnostic tool. That's what a great business does, which you have. Talk about this free diagnostic tool to be able to access on a link on the show notes, what it does for them.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the big things that we see is companies don't even know where to start. So they know that they need to attract more of the right prospects. They know they need to accelerate their best deals through the sales pipeline, and they know they need to activate their existing clients for fast renewals, larger upsells, more referrals. But these are a lot of kind of nebulous things. They don't know where to start on defining the metrics that matter or benchmarking those metrics against, well, what does good look like? Because all I really know is what my company is doing. Is that good or bad? And then so they don't know sort of where to go from there. So we actually worked with an external third party, and we've done research with over 200 different companies to identify benchmarks against all of the key KPIs for attracting more of the right prospects, accelerating your best deals through the sales pipeline, or activating your existing clients for fast renewals, larger upsells, more referrals. So in about 15 questions, might be 20, depending upon how you answer them, we can very quickly tell you the fastest path to growth and how you benchmark against other companies that are similar to you, both in size and industry focus. And so if you go to modernrevenuestrategies.com/diagnostic, those questions are there. Now, I'll warn you, they're not the easiest questions because I'm going to ask you things about, what was your churn rate? Meaning like how many of your customers or how much of your revenue churned out every month over the last year or 2 years, whatever, sort of time frame makes sense for your business. So you might not know that off the top of your head, but you could probably get access to that. Likewise, I might ask you, what percentage of your leads comes from referrals? Maybe you don't track that today, but you could probably get at that with some internal reporting. But that also gives you a sense of the sort of data-driven approach that we take in helping our clients diagnose these issues. And if you don't know, you can always answer, I don't know, or I don't even know where to look that up. We can look at those answers and then give you a good sense of, well, here's your sort of, as they say, the sucking chest wound that you got to address right now where the patient's going to die. And then we can, get to some of these more cosmetic issues later.
That's fantastic. That's powerful tool, audience. Take advantage of it, especially when something's free. I try to jump on. I'm going to jump on. I'm not a B2B, but I'm going to try it myself because, hey guys, it's free. Worst thing that happens is 5 minutes of your life, you get nothing out of it, but you tried and you took action. You made that decision. I love it. Well, we're coming to the end here. I love to ask a fun question.
Okay.
So you got a reservation at a restaurant for a table of 4.
Okay.
You're of course sitting in one table.
Okay.
So who would you invite, dead or alive? Why would you invite them? And what food would you order?
Oh gosh, that's a crushing question. Can they be mythical or real?
It doesn't matter. This is your table. Whatever you want.
Gosh, that's a tough one. In terms of what to order, it would definitely be a group decision because I'm a bit of an empath and I love to be a good host. So I would never want to just order kind of what I like and then have everyone have it. So, and it might just be drinks because that's, probably an easier way to go. And so then if I'm trying to sort of craft the ideal dinner party, I might go either with all folks that I know drink alcohol or all folks that I know don't. As a way of sort of shaping who I would invite or how we would go, and then if it's all folks that drink alcohol, I might say, well, who do I know that from history that really appreciates bourbon? So then maybe it's Winston Churchill, and I kind of feel like Abraham Lincoln was probably a bourbon drinker, and we can probably come up with another one there. likewise, I recently have really gotten into tiki drinks and rum, and so I've always been a Hemingway fan of his writing. So maybe Don the Beachcomber, who created some of the classic tiki drinks, and Ernest Hemingway. I could probably come up with another person to fill that. If I was going the non-alcohol route, might as well get Jesus, the Buddha, and Muhammad. Like how can you not have an interesting conversation there? So probably those would be probably three different directions I'd think about going.
I love it. The last table would be interesting conversation. I love to pull a chair up just to listen to him talk about it. Very cool. Well, Mark, you're a blessing in what you do. You do it from a servant's heart. And I love everything you do. Thank you so much for all the tips and motivation you've given on the show. Lift up your book again one more time. Tell people where they can get that.
Yeah, so actually, I'll do something special for your guests. Anyone that doesn't want to take the time to do the diagnostic, but wants to learn more about our approach, if you go to modernrevenuestrategies.com/free download, you can get a free copy of the book. And not only is it the book itself, but also it's all the sort of templates and calculators and a lot of the tools and systems that I outline in the book around building that ideal customer profile, about defining your sales strategy, about your referral programs and upsells and renewals, so that you can really get started on that path to growth today.
Sounds good. I see, again, servant heart. He's proven it every minute. I tell him he's proven it. Now, how can people support you and connect with you?
Yeah, so honestly, if you either take the diagnostic or download the book, I'm definitely going to reach out and talk to you about it. Or you can always reach me at mark@modernrevenuestrategies.com or on LinkedIn. I'm always there, Mark Osborne.
And I'll have that information as well, audience, in the show notes. So if you didn't get it on this, we'll make sure that you get connected with them. You do me a favor on the YouTube channel. Comment on this channel, this show. Tell us how my show's doing. If it's good or bad, I love critique. And if you have questions or comments for Mark, I'll get them to him. But I love the comments, the engagement we're getting, because Mark has got some great tools. He's got great knowledge of how to build your business. And if you're not part of B2B, I still ask the question. He probably has an answer because he's been doing this for a long time, even though he's a young guy. So do me a favor there and subscribe to the channel as well, or download on the podcast platform, because guess what? You get to listen to Mark over and over again. I always tell people, when you subscribe, and I subscribe to a lot of the YouTube channels, I could find his podcast much easier by subscribing. So subscribe to that. Of course, it doesn't cost anything. And the biggest favor I ask, share with your friends and family. They're founders, CEOs. They want to listen to Mark. They may want to get this information, especially a diagnostic tool. Have them jump on it. Again, it's free, but the other side of that could be lots of income in your pocket and help being able to serve more people. And as always, me and Mark want to thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.